Right now I'm sitting with Shannon Boodram, the author of Lay, this brand new book right here, Young People's Experiences with Sex and Easy Access Culture. How are you doing with that?
I'm doing so good. This is my favorite song right now on too. And seeing it every time, it's like the first time I've ever seen it before. So I'm very excited. It's my little boy right there. My little boy.
All right, so take us back to, the writing process. What did it take to get to this point?
Well, it's an anthology, but I've always loved writing. Since I was in grade 4, I wrote a book about unicorns, so I've always known writing was my passion. But with this book in particular, I chose to make an anthology, which is a collection of short stories for people across North America, because I want it to be the complete teenage sexual experience, and I don't have all that inside of me. It's what somebody else in Oregon went through is different from what I went through, and someone in Vancouver versus somebody in Texas. And that's what this book has, a voice from almost every area, I'd say, in North America, and between 18 to 25 in ages, and every demographic you can think of, and it's a collective of amazing stories from very brave people.
They are really amazing stories, really personal experiences that people share. Now, how did you go about choosing the stories that you included in this book?
Well, like I mentioned, it was kind of like I really wanted to stress that I wanted to be a complete experience. So I wanted people from different areas to be like, yeah, this person lives kind of close to me, or this person's close to my age. So I wanted to spread it out in terms of where they lived, how old they were, and experiences. This book is separated into 5 chapters based on great experiences, not so great experiences emotionally wise, consequences, STDs, abortion and pregnancy, as well as date rape, sexual abuse, and finally abstinence. So I had to find stories that were diverse in that way, and also diverse in terms of voices. Some people who are a little funnier, a little more outgoing, and that was my main concern, just making sure that most people can relate to at least one story in the book.
And what this book does is go into depth on really personal experiences from all kinds of people. What did you find out about yourself in opening up and, sharing that part of you with the world? How did you do that?
Girl! Where do I begin? This book, it took 4 years to make, and after year 3, I kind of resolved it was not going to get published. I thought that maybe the idea was too out there, too bold, and nobody wanted it. And for that, I came to the conclusion that it was okay because I had transformed 360 from it. I mean, I needed that book. This book, I needed to write this book because I was truly in a place of complete sexual ignorance, and I was damaging myself experience after experience. And reaching out to other people and hearing their stories, sharing mine, and challenging myself to really look at my sexuality and think of what kind of sexual person I wanted to be is just all the lessons I could learn in the world. There isn't one story that I did not learn something that completely changed a little bit of how I approached my sexuality.
Okay, and speaking of your own personal sexuality, sexual experiences, how were you able to just open up and share that, and why did you want to get that personal?
It's crazy. My mom, the first time that she read it, she came home and she was so mad at me and she was crying. But it was natural for me to do that. For some reason, because I was 20 when I wrote my story about when I was 19, losing my virginity. So it just felt like a different person back then. And I knew that what I experienced at that point, because I'd already started to contract other stories, it wasn't unrelatable and it wasn't out of this world. So having other people who are brave enough to share with me kind of gave me the courage to be as open as possible.
So did you find out anything about yourself while writing this book?
I definitely did. I found out that I deserve more. I found out that it's okay to say no. I found out the importance of protection, the importance of being confident and knowledgeable. And it's not like the people who are sexually savvy are not the dirtiest or freakiest. Those are the most responsible, because those are the ones who care enough to put a real interest. And this is a subject that is with you lifelong. Your sexuality is something that you should have a lifelong learning relationship with, just like your career. And so I hope that this book is a starting place for a lot of people, because for me, it's where it started. Because I didn't end here. I also went after that and took seminars. I went to courses. I read. I met so many sexual educators, and I continued on from this point. And I hope people do that, because your sexuality, it should be something you should take an actual interest in.
Agreed. So what makes Laid different from any other sexual educational books that are out there?
Man, it's interesting. I mean, a lot of the books that I read when I was studying to do Lakes, I needed to actually have some type of knowledge behind it, were very factual, were very intriguing, and they were interesting because I was interested in sex ed. If you are not somebody who is interested in sex ed, I don't think you would go and seek out those books. This book, however, it takes real people, relatable stories, and it gets you immersed into their lives. I asked everyone to write as though they were telling the story to their best friend. So it's very conversational, so it pulls you in, and you're learning without even realizing it. This is a vicarious learning experience. I think that's what makes a difference, and it's from people 18 to 25. So people in our generation who can talk and say words like iPod or while I was on Facebook. So it's a little bit more current than any book out there, I think.
True. Okay, and even writing this book, it's kind of a taboo subject that you went into, but you did it in a way that you wanted to empower women, and just anybody with their sexuality. Also, you include experiences from the gay and lesbian community. Why was it important for you to include that perspective?
It was so important. I went to school in Baltimore, as I mentioned, and we had a suite, which means there's like maybe 8 of us in our suite, and 2 of the girls there were bisexual or gay. I met so many people like that. And then coming back to Toronto and moving downtown, I met so many more people like that. That is a lot of people's experiences, and it's important to include that, number 1, to promote tolerance, and number 2, to let them know that they're not different. They don't deserve a separate book, because homosexuality, sexuality is still sexuality. I wish that there was more inclusion in the book, but like I mentioned, I wanted to spread it out as much as possible, so that may not have been possible, but I do hope they feel that they're included, because every story, even if they're not about homosexual relationship, is still about a relationship, and everyone can learn from it.
And it's all about having an overall healthy sexual relationship.
Yes! Yes, it is.
All right, and you also have a little chapter or some insight on virgins, or from a virgin. Some people might see that as contradictory. Why did you want to throw that in there? Why did you want to include it?
Sexuality does not mean having sex. To be a sexual person is to embrace, love, accept, and know your sexuality. This book is about sexuality, not specifically sex. Some of the stories in here are about self-sexuality or masturbation. That's not sex either. It's about the complete sexual experience. And being abstinent is also a choice of a sexual choice. And even not being abstinent, having already had sex and choosing to say no as well, and expressing your sexuality in ways that you're comfortable with, and you feel like you're being respected and loved, and you're still celebrating yourself. And that was important to include, because those people are not left out. They're still a part of it. They're just going a different route.
Very interesting. Any final things that you want to add lastly?
Thank you guys so much for having me. This means a lot. This book is truly a labor of love. It took 4 years to make, and it shows. There's a lot of hard work put in it, and it's amazing writing from very honest, brave, and wonderful people. Everybody can learn something from it. I believe teachers, parents, young people especially, I hope they go out and buy it, and even people who are in their 20s, they can relate and find some comfort in knowing that somebody else went through what they went through, or maybe are still going through that. And you can check me out at laidthebook.com or thosegirlsarewild.com, or at 360 TV. You can check this interview over and over and over again, because you learn something different every time, I promise.
All right, Shannon, thank you so much for speaking with us. Last thing, if you can send a message out there to young women, what would it be?
Get yours. Honestly, whatever yours is, I think sexuality is the key thing, is sexuality. So find what works for you and get it. If that's a hug, if that's everything, if that's nothing, just put yourself first. There's a lot of sexual trends right now out there for guys and girls, sexting, shag bracelets, girl-on-girl action. That's not about yourself. It's about pleasing others. I want to bring it back to getting yours. Laid, son, get yours. It's not too late. It's out everywhere. What's your excuse? Playing.
All right, there you have it. Shannon T. Boodram, professional photographer, businesswoman, and author of the brand new book, Laid. So make sure you pick up your copy.